lions and wolves communicate well enough to hunt as a group. Bees can tell each other where the best pollen is. For almost the whole of human history, from at least 3 million years ago, mankind has lived by carrying out these two basic activities of hunting or fishing and gathering edible items of any kind, from fruits to insects. We are unusual among animals in combining the two functions, and we've been greatly helped in both by the development of language. But all of this is a result of our ability to communicate, to speculate, to rationalize, to think on a level not known to any other creature. A critical aspect of this ability to think is called research. And born from this is what is today described as the knowledge economy. The ability to research for development has become so critical that nations rise and fall based on their ability to master these crafts. Recognizing how essential the knowledge economy has become in nation building, the Tertiary Education Trust Fund initiated a paradigm shift to elevate its intervention in Nigeria's tertiary education institutions from infrastructure to research and development. The inspiration for this shift is TETFund's Executive Secretary, Professor Suleiman Elias Bogoro, who understood that R&D is necessary and also a first step of any process leading to technological innovation.
I can tell you that I will not be done until I see we've established, if we institutionalize R&D in Nigeria, let me tell you, it will be a guaranteed avenue. In fact, the foundation, National R&D Foundation, my dream there is, look, let's have an institution in this country supported by law. The National Assembly makes the law. And it is there that some silent sources of funding that have never been considered will be brought together. You'll be surprised how much billions will be available to support research for both undergraduate, postgraduate, postdoc, bench work within and beyond this country, as well as research that will solve problems of technology, of economy, and of nation. We have insecurity staring us in the face. If it continues this way, very soon we can't do anything because we'll be challenged by insecurity. We are looking forward to that, and we hope that if we are able to get it right, I tell you one thing, for instance, the hostel matter I talked about. Yes. If we are able to provide hostel, some of them directly from TETFund, some maybe some other federal government, Mr. President could decide tomorrow, look, let CBN make available special intervention for building of hostels for our universities, polytechnic, college of education. If these students are living in more conducive atmosphere, there will be less issues of distraction. A situation where students are living with criminals, call it anything, negative. They cannot concentrate on their studies. These are some of the things, but more important, like I said, if we have good hostels that are respectable, foreign students will come. It will be a foreign honor for this country and for our educational institutions. And particularly if we hope that even the appropriation funding may improve to continue to attract the best of faculty and retain them. And we are supporting research. In other climes, the most ranked universities, like I said, it is faculty. And the research grants they hold. Professors are rated for the numbers of research grants they hold, rather than just the numbers of publications. Take this from me. And that is something that we need to change. We need to see more of professors holding the most respected grants, not just any grant, the most respected grants, with outcomes that are solving problems, I said, of technology, of economy, and of nation. If we get to that stage, I can assure you, and all other things required, those other basic facilities, the physical one are met, you have strong faculty, you have, at the moment when they close our borders, we are still debating whether our international airports will be open. But about a month ago, somebody came to tell us the story of a surgery where 3 Nigerian surgeons in a teaching hospital did an unbelievable 11-hour surgery and saved the life of a woman that the family had literally given up. Ordinarily at that time they would say, rush them to India, London, Dubai, Germany. Why shouldn't be when we have the capacity? If the facilities are there and we are incentivizing the very best amongst us.
Dr. Popola Mustafa Ayo is the technical assistant to the executive secretary on research and development.
Let me quickly start by saying that we actually need to get the thematic areas right. You can see we are matching two things, research and development. Let me start from the point of research. Research is about probing into what is existing or what you think is a new thing that you need to get clear, and how you want to make use of that, the outcomes and output of that probing. So that's why what you see in research is that you are starting with a question, and that question you need to come up with hypothesis, either null or it's going to be positive. So, and even in new research, we can look at things like negative control and positive controls. What all of this is saying is that yes, you are going with a clear mind to say, okay, I don't understand, or I understand, I want to assume that this is what is happening. But the actual experiment will tell you either true or false. So a lot of research are going on in this country. People do research, they don't know it is research. So what we consider as research is this country, what we do when we are writing thesis in colleges of education, polytechnics and university. But do you know that a lot of SMEs are actually conducting research and they don't know it is research? For you to say you want to go into actual business across the world, part of the research you need to actually conduct is your market analysis. You need to understand your environment, you need to do impact assessment when it's a big project, and all of these are studies. So for people, they thought when it's talking about R&D, it's only talking to the university community, which is the primary constituency of TETFund, but by implication, it's going to radiate across the country. That is going to be on the research arm. And let me conclude by saying that before you can say you want to have sustainable development, you say that a lot of organizations in this country have their research departments abroad. That is going to be part of the paradigm that needs to change. If you are working in the banking sector, you are in the petroleum sector, you are in the agricultural sector, we want a situation that where you have your own research department in every organization, no matter how little. So that is going to continuously be putting you on track, and for you to know that, oh, these are emerging issues, I need to probe it. That is the kind of things that the ES of TETFund is looking at on the long run. So, but in the immediate, you need to start with your primary constituency. That's why I want to look at what's going on in the university system. Is it that we still want to continue to be writing theses and they are going to be on the shelf and they are now commercializable? And we actually know that every year in, year out, people are using resources. The student and the facility in the university, college of education are being used to carry out some research. Are we going to continuously be leaving them on the shelf? So what kind of research? Are they empirical research? Are they just a research for just doing research sake because we want to get certificates? Or do we need to move on to say, okay, we can cascade this research and actually dimension them to problem-solving research that's going to give us output that can be useful at national and international level. Let me conclude on that aspect of research by saying that you can never innovate if you don't do research. The first phase of any innovation across the world, for you to have any competitive edge, because if you don't have competitive edge, you can't actually be talking about knowledge economy. So for you to have a competitive edge, the first level is research.
R&D embodies a long-term vision of a nation and its strategy. At the end of the day, R&D means investing money to find innovation, products, services, and processes that will enable the economy to grow. Having gotten an insight into research, let's listen to the concept of development as defined by Dr. Ayo.
Now, how does it relate with development now? So what we're talking about is that, yes, definitely there's a difference between growth and development. So for you to have development, there are some things that you need to put in place. And part of it is that, okay, you have the research outcomes, you have the research outputs. the two of them are those things that are going to merge together and have environmental indices that you can now use it to say you're actually making impact. What the society is waiting for is the impact. They don't want a situation where you're just going to be speaking English. What impact has this investment you have done in probing into a new area is going to have on the society? All of these are the value chain of research and the way you can translate research to development. In the new science, you're going to be hearing about translational research. That is, you need to be able to translate whatever you are doing into what is going to be useful to the environment. So going forward, what the ES of TETFund stand for, and why a lot of people actually call him a new acronym or a new name as a senior advocate of research, is that anywhere he goes to, he's speaking about this passionately, he's clear about the vision. And now the enlistment of people that are going to be on that mission is the current effort that is going on. Because if you are having a vision, you cannot run the vision alone. You must have a shared vision. And you know, definitely, before now, you could have what you call a blood vision. There are different types of vision too. Blood vision, visionless vision, and some that doesn't even have a clarity. In this case, the subject is very clear to him. Being a professor who is an institute scientist himself, knows clearly how we are actually going to move this country using the solutions that science has provided, like it's been done across the world, to understand our situation, our peculiarities, and see how we can actually domesticate even some foreign protocols to make us move from where we are as a country across all the sector to the next level. So defining the next level that government is talking about, at the core of it is research. If you have not done research, you can actually not be talking about development. So, and if you cannot talk about development, you cannot be talking about innovation. If you can't talk about innovation, you can't move to having competitive edge. If you don't have a competitive edge, you can't translate to knowledge economy. That has to be very clear. And you're going to see a lot of people playing in different nodes of this value chain. And that is the aggregate of people that will eventually deliver this for the country. On overall, you're going to understand now that it is something that everybody has to be on board. It is not, the ES now is not talking to only few people you think is only scientists. No, social scientists are expected to be here. We need historians. We need almost everybody across all sectors to make sure that, yes, for us to move forward, we don't need to be copy and be pasting. A lot of copy and paste policies and results is what is actually demeaning this country. There are some things that are not just adaptive to this country, including scientific protocols. There are things that when you do in the laboratory is because of the environmental condition of that country. That's why it's being done that way. You don't just copy and paste. You need to come to your own country, look at your own situation, and see what you need to do. So in essence, the research and development agenda should be a national agenda. It has been a national agenda in developed country, and Nigeria cannot have another different pathway. So the only pathway to sustainable development is for you to actually agree as a country, and all hands must be on deck on R&D. Then we can actually have high. That is going to be the innovation.
The Board of Trustees and Management of the Tertiary Education Trust Fund cordially wish to inform the general public that the inauguration of a standing committee on research and development by the Honorable Minister of Education, Malam Adamu Adamu, has been scheduled as follows. Date 24th September 2020.
Venue Congress Hall,
Transcorp Hilton, Abuja. Time 10 a.m. The committee's membership drawn from Nigeria's best researchers and innovators, representatives of relevant MDAs and the private sector, will drive TETFund's R&D intervention policy in public tertiary institutions towards the nation's economic and technological competitiveness. All invited guests are requested to be prompt, please. Announcer, Professor Suleiman Elias Bogoro, Executive Secretary, TETFund.
The knowledge economy is defined as an economy in which growth is dependent on the quantity, quality, and accessibility of information available rather than means of production. The knowledge economy, or knowledge-based economy, is the use of knowledge to create goods and services. In particular, it refers to a high portion of skilled workers in the economy of a locality, country, or the world, and the idea that most jobs require specialized skills. But how does this factor in the paradigm shift?
Let me just come from the perspective of my understanding of what knowledge is all about. Knowledge, a word; economy, another word. So before now, all what we have been talking about is that we have resources. So when you are potentially rich, it doesn't mean that you are actually rich. So when you have things in potentials, they are in latent form. Nothing has been activated. Let me take you through an example that can allow us to understand clearly what's going on. In this country, we have crude oil. But you will challenge to say the exploration of crude oil in this country, the technology behind this, are we the owner? So meaning that the only thing we can do is to surrender our crude oil to somebody that has knowledge of exploring that crude oil, processing it into what is needed, otherwise it's going to remain in resources. So that is the kind of resources we have across the country. I just mentioned the issue of plants, biodiversity, plant, animal, and a lot of biomes that we have in this country. Nobody even understands what it is. As I'm talking to you now, part of what we have that is our challenge in the livestock sector is what we call the genetic erosion. There is a complete genetic erosion in this country. That is why if you want to understand, a simple example is that when we are smaller than this, when you are younger, you're going to see that a lot of people have a backyard goats. And those animals, you can see their size. Come to the market today. Those animals that have been breeding very fine and they have good sizes, when you go to some of our market now, you're going to see some goat that will be looking like rabbit. There is a genetic depression already, and nobody is talking about this. So these are things that, so in essence, what you're asking me around knowledge is that when you have knowledge, knowledge is not tangible. It is an intangible asset. And being an intangible asset, it makes the value very, very high, and you can actually value it the way you want it. That's why when you see any project in this country, you're going to be hearing the amount that is being paid for consultancy. You're going to be hearing of huge amounts being used for feasibility reports. All these feasibility reports and the technical reports, whatever it is a product of knowledge. If you have your money, utilization of that fund required knowledge. And in the knowledge economy going forward, what we are talking about is that, yes, we are not going to be carrying crude oil. We are not going to be carrying maize. What can you turn that maize to? So who are those people that have those technology to turn maize to powder? And what type of powder?
It takes a team of people who sometimes number in the thousands to cater for production, marketing, and the provision of after-sales service of any product. According to the technical assistant to the TETFund boss, R&D also boasts of its own value chain.
Where the ES is taking the ES of TETFund, where it's taking the country to, is for us to have what we call research industry. And in an industry, you need to understand that there's going to be a starting point, the input component of it, and you're going to have the output component of it. Now, part of what TETFund is doing today is to make sure, under its leadership, is to raise the bar when it comes to the amount of money that will be available for R&D under the National Research Fund. Now, for the first time in this country, only last year, approval was given to up to 5 billion by the president, and through the approval of Board of Trustees, and basically because of his recommendation to Mr. President through the Board of Trustees of TETFund, it has been risen again to 7.5 billion. So now the value chain is of R&D start by saying you have the right input. What are the input? The first thing is idea. And in the ideation stage, you can actually do that one either consciously or subconsciously. Now the input into any research will be your own human capital. You're going to be talking about idea. Idea can only be processed by anybody that is knowledgeable, and you have some certain level of skills and expertise. You can see some of the aggregates that are coming into the input of research now. I've mentioned knowledge, I've mentioned skills, I've mentioned issue of ideation, either subconsciously or consciously. In the subconscious, you can wake up and think wide because you have time for dedication. You have time for you to think, because thinking is a process anyway, it's a work too. You need to decide to say, I want to think and get a result out of this. So out of your ideation, subconsciously, you can wake up and say, why is this not like this? For example, why is this leaf growing like this? Why can't it grow like this? Why can't I take this and add to this and it's going to give me this? So that's how wide idea comes. But it could be in your subconscious. When you are conscious, and I might be looking at you like this, in my subconscious, I'm processing a lot of data. And that is what the principle of bioinformatics is leveraging on. A lot of data, a lot of cells, billions of cells, DNA inside us that are working, but we don't understand. So now, when you come up with that idea, the next thing you want to do is that, okay, it's subconscious. I'm now conscious. Can I process that idea? I'm deliberately thinking about it now. When you think about that idea, the next thing we expect you to do is for you to do what we call inking. Inking means you can just write it anyhow. Script it the way it's coming. But it is not finished because it's still an idea. The next thing you need to process it into is what we call writing. You know, you can ink something by just being diagrammatic that I think it will go this way. But actual writing involves another thought process. So when you have written it down now, then it's now due for subjecting it into experimentation. That is another process. It's not every researcher, it's not every idealist that will be conducting experiments. There are people that all what they do is to bring out an idea, and then you now come to a group of people that have skills. And that is the genesis of interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary research. You have an idea that's so bogus, that's the only thing you have. You don't even know how to do it. You just say, oh, this one will involve an engineer, a medical doctor. Because what I actually want to do is to do a pump or a valve that can be inserted into human heart and makes the person to live more than 100 years, for example. It's just crazy. So you just say, okay, I'm a mathematician. I can only take a bit. And when ES is talking about interdisciplinary research and multidisciplinary research, that is the foundation of the thinking. You need to understand that, yes, you have an idea, we have processed the ideation, you are bringing it to the table for some people to take around. That's where the experimentation comes in. And you're going to now be talking about experimental design, you're going to be talking about the hypothesis, and what is going to be the statistical tools that will be used to analyze that idea, so that you're going to be able to compete favorably when your outcome is being peer reviewed, either locally or across the world. So when you are able to do that and you move from ideation and you have processed it through writing and you are now in the experimentation stage, our expected result will be that you're going to have an outcome that might be a development of a protocol, a design, something that is not that really tangible, but it's a process, or you're going to have what we call an output that is going to be a product that is tangible. Are you getting it? That you can actually take to market or say, okay, we need to move this one on. And then eventually that's going to dovetail into, when you take it to market, then that is the next stage, commercialization now. And in between your output in the research and commercialization, there's another long chain. Because you can go through any route. You can actually say, for me, I want to patent this because it's a new discovery.
Speaking of teamwork, TETFund is blazing the trail that will accelerate Nigeria's industrial revolution. How do the agency's departments work together to achieve the paradigm shift?
In content development, there is what we call human capital. Human capital development is critical because ES will continuously be telling you that, yes, it is not the number of buildings in your university that will assist you to attain the global ranking when it comes to the university system. It's going to be the faculty. Who are the people that are teaching people? And you know the three pillars of the university, the teaching, the research, and the community service. Yes, we've concentrated on one for long. That is the teaching. But again, the question is that what are we teaching people in this country? Why is it that if you learn a subject in this country, you cannot make reference to your notebook when you are in your workplace in the same discipline? So that's something that we need to query.
At the core of research and development ideology is the entrenchment of data-based decision-making at every level of Nigeria's economy. TETFund is driving this effort using the science of what is needed for the growth of the nation's knowledge economy. And that is the paradigm shift.